Welcome to the Parenting Roundabout podcast for the week of August 1st, 2022. I'm Catherine Lecco, and I'm here with Terry Morrow.
Hello.
Nicole Eridix is away this week, but we have two special guests with us. We have
Takes two people to replace Nicole.
We have Audra and Hadassah from the A Bit Above podcast, and they are going to be talking, complaining, and obsessing with us all week long. We're going to be complaining about having to stay up all night and obsessing about dating apps, and we will also take a couple of breaks for an entertainment discussion and a recommendation roundup. So today we just want you to meet Hadassah and Audra. Terry, you want to introduce us?
Well, Hadassah and Audra and I met thanks to a Bobby Bones Facebook fan group that Hadassah was instrumental in setting up. And so all the times you hear me talking about Bobby Bones, it's probably things I've read about on there or heard on the show. And why don't we let them each introduce themselves and talk about where they plug into the parenting situation that we talk about every week. Hadassah, why don't you introduce yourself?
So, wait, I just want
putting you right on the spot.
Yeah, no problem. I thought Audra was going to go first. Okay.
Okay.
It's been forever.
I could go alphabetically. That'd be fine.
No. Hadassah comes first. Last name, So.
There you go. Okay.
So I am Hadassah and I live in Israel, but I'm actually from the U.S., obviously. And I am a mother of a 2-year-old. So that's where I am as a mother.
She's reminding us of all those days long, long ago.
Right.
I'm sorry.
And Audra, why don't you want to introduce yourself?
Really, I'm Audra. I'm in the U.S., unlike Hadassah, and I'm a mother of 2 adult children.
Mm-hmm. So, when we get to the episode about lack of sleep, we know what Hadassah's answer is going to be. What keeps her up at night?
Oh yeah.
So I also have enjoyed listening to the podcast that you guys did for a while called A Bit Above. And I know that it's in hiatus right now, but of course podcasts are never really dead. They are always there with a whole bunch of episodes just waiting for anybody to listen to. So can you tell us a little bit about why you started a podcast and what you enjoyed doing with it?
Audra, you want me?
Draw straws right now.
Yeah, no problem. So we started the podcast, I think like a year and a half ago, something like that. Audra honestly sounds like a podcaster. Her voice is very sweet. And so like it just made sense. And then of course, our conversations, we really enjoyed talking to each other. So I remember one time we said like, what if we recorded this and listened back? Like what, that'd be interesting to listen to. And so we started a podcast called A Bit Above, which is basically, living the lifestyle where we're not trying to race to the top, but we're actually like talking about like just being a bit above like where you are today or in a specific situation, just working on that next step. And it's not, it's not necessarily a self-help podcast, but it's just discussing like the realities of taking the next step and living life, like the good stuff, the bad stuff, the funny stuff. And we did that for quite a while, and we are on hiatus. I don't even know how to pronounce that word, but we, a lot has come up recently with me going through a divorce in December and with Audra being very busy with work. And we want to not ever stop podcasting. Of course, we miss that so much. It's the best part of the day, but the editing was like about a few hours of the week. And so like a lot to do,
Yeah, it is a time commitment. If it was just, I know there's some podcast hosts that allow you to just record and send. In fact, when we started,
Yes.
Oh my gosh, what was it?
Blog Talk
Radio. And you just put it out there in the world, and it sounded like bleep, but there was no editing. There was no nothing. You just talked, you published, you went on to your next episode. I kind of miss those days until I go back and I listen to some of our first episodes and I think, oh my goodness, we sound like we're talking in a tin can. I can definitely see how life issues can come and get in the way of being able to do that. It's such a fun way to express yourself, though, and to process parenting issues.
Yeah, your podcast is different from ours in that we have kids, we all have, Nicole, Terry, and I all have teens or young adults. Mm-hmm. And you guys are kind of at either end of the parenting spectrum.
Yeah.
So how does that affect what you talk about?
I mean, I definitely think, Audra, I'm sure you have an opinion on this too, but it's fun to have that kind of contrast between living very different lifestyles. We grew up so differently. We have such different families. We live in different countries, yet
right.
bouncing it back and forth is awesome.
I mean, we have Nicole, who's a Canadian living in California. That's about as exotic as we get.
That's right. Yeah, we juggle 3 time zones. And you guys only have 2, but they're real far apart.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have to do that math every week.
Yeah.
Audra, what did you enjoy about doing a podcast?
I think the best part of it is just to get to know somebody else and to get to know our listeners as well. So the whole process is just, like we said, it's becoming a bit above. So when we look back at our first couple episodes and whatnot, we just kind of man, we had no idea what we were doing. Boy, were we winging it. But now, it gets a little easier, though. As Hadassah said, we are on a hiatus, and she loves that word. It's been so crazy. It's like taking a hot minute to figure out how to plug all of our stuff back in to record. I mean, it's just been that crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been able to keep doing it every week, one way or the other, in some configuration or other. But I would definitely get rusty if we took very long off, because I'm old and technology is increasingly confusing.
I don't know. You need to give yourself credit for figuring out how to edit.
Yeah, you don't know how much time and swearing goes into that, but it's just as well nobody knows.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it does kind of keep me in the game a little bit, having to do it.
So I guess we should all have a behind the scenes episode of what really goes down on recording a podcast.
Yes. To receive this smooth, polished product, here's what we do. As Catherine and I have talked about before, the pandemic significantly lowered the bar on podcast quality, I feel like. Because everybody went from recording in studios to recording in their homes through Zoom. And so even the most professional podcasts now sound a little crummy. So therefore, those of us who sounded a lot crummy are getting closer to the professionalism standard. It's great.
That's right.
But do you get a lot of feedback from your listeners? We get 0 feedback from our listeners. Other than Mike, friend of the podcast, Mike. Hi, Mike.
Definitely people who listen and want to share. We've made friends with people who, saw the podcast on social media. And then our friend, Andrea, that's how we met her. She saw the podcast and she was telling me that she liked it. And now we're really good friends. So
yeah, there's definitely people that reach out. And then they also kind of give us some flack for not having episodes up recently.
Right. This is the flip side of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just gotta go back with like short episodes, so it's not too much pressure, ease back in. We used to do speed rounds, which were like 3 minutes, one question, 3 minutes, and you're out of there.
Have you heard our podcast?
I have heard your podcast, and this is why I'm suggesting perhaps you could start shorter and then work up.
That's very smart.
This worked for you.
I think we did a speed round questions, and it was like a half hour long.
Right.
Yeah, we used to do one big episode a week, and then we said let's just break it up into 4 pieces, and it's worked out better, I think. Smaller chunks, but still, it is a lot. It is a lot of stuff to process, and it is easy to get off on a tangent and just talk forever.
We've never done that. What do you mean, Terry?
Editing. This is where the editing comes in. Yeah. I go through, and all the times I'm blathering on, I just cut it down by 2/3. And suddenly it's a reasonably lengthed podcast.
That is the privilege of the editor, right?
Yes. I leave all your blather in, Catherine,
right.
So.
Yep.
Oh, Hadassah will send me like a whole message. She's like, "Oh, by the way, this whole part of the conversation got ixnayed." I'm like, "Dang it! It was so good."
I know. I always
It
feel
might
so
have.
guilty because it's usually the things that Audra's passionate about, and it's not that they're not so interesting. It doesn't really see the time on my machine. I have a time that says it, and when she talks about certain things, it gets very long. And for me, I know I could talk, but then as soon as I finish what I'm
Yes.
saying, I stop talking.
I don't
See,
know
this is-
what she's talking about.
This is what you have to do. Take all those outtakes and then like put them together into episodes.
Right.
And then you have free episodes. You don't have to do anything except glue stuff together.
Those are
Not that we ever do that here. Every weekend and every time we don't have enough people. Lots of recycling on our podcast
Yes.
of things people have heard before. And this would be things people had never heard before. So
There you go.
I think ours would probably get crazy and wild.
the forbidden deleted audio from a
Right.
bit above.
Exactly.
Listen now.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so scandalous. We're such cool people, so it's very scandalous. You should assume.
It was too hot to publish, but
Yeah.
here it is. And then it's 30 minutes of rambling on about something.
Right.
Heck, people would listen to that. I've
They
heard worse.
would.
Well,
Absolutely.
speaking of rambling on, maybe it's time to cut this conversation off.
Well, we'll say that that's it for today's round one, and we'll ask you to tune in tomorrow for our entertainment-themed round two. That's just me and Terry. And then later in the week to find out what we're complaining about, obsessing about, and recommending with Audra and Hadassah. We're always interested in what you have to say, so drop us a comment on our website, our Facebook page, or Twitter, where you'll find us at Roundabout Chat.